Hi guys, have you ever wondered what stage of the money journey you're on? If you're thinking to yourself, Ken, what on earth are you talking about with the money journey? What is the money journey? Today I'm going to speak to you about the 8 stages to financial independence and abundance in order for you to work out where exactly you're on so that you can then work towards a strategy to move you up that money journey. My name is Ken of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. What we do on this channel is to give you the insights, the hacks, and the practical tips for you to work towards a dream life of financial independence and money joy. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video because I will be sharing a really important resource that you definitely want to make sure you check out if you are interested in actually making financial independence a real practical reality in your own life. Okay, so let's dive straight in and unpack what exactly I mean about the money journey. But before we do that, I want to make today super practical. Okay, so I'm going to get you to do a bit of an exercise. If you can do me a favor, grab me a sheet of paper, so an A4 sheet of paper, and draw a line right in the middle of that sheet of paper. So to the left, you write the word assets, and to the right, you write the word liabilities. So right at the top, assets and liabilities, and a line in the middle, okay? Now, an asset is anything that puts money back into your pocket. And a liability is anything that takes money away from your pocket. The point of this exercise is for us to work out what your financial net worth is. You're probably thinking, what's that got to do with the 8 stages to financial independence and abundance? Well, it matters because it will help you pivot and identify exactly where you are on that money journey. Okay, so examples of assets include things such as your savings, cash, property, things essentially that add money into your pocket in one way or another or hold some form of economic value. Okay, so you want to write what the asset is, so the type, so property, and write the amount, the value of that property that you've got or the asset. Okay, on the liability side, you want to write down things that are taking money away from your pocket. So such things as your mortgage, credit card debt, short-term loans, overdrafts. So you want to write down what the type of liability is and write the corresponding amount. And what you want to do with this, make sure it's on a single sheet of A4, is sum all your assets and sum all your liabilities. Okay? This should take you 5 minutes at the most. And take the total number of assets, the total amount of your assets, less the total amount of your liabilities. Okay, that should tell you if it's a positive number, then you've got a positive net worth. Okay, if it's a negative number, it means you are in a negative net liability position. Okay, this matters very, very, very significantly because it will help you pinpoint where you are on this money journey that I'm going to walk you through in the next few minutes, okay? So spend 2 minutes doing that and let's get cracking with the rest of the video.
A few moments later.
Before we dive into these stages, I want to just spend a minute speaking to you about what life looks like for most people. Although most of us don't really think of it in this exact way I'm going to explain it, okay? So most of us we're born to parents, okay? Mum and dad, or possibly some guardians or our grandparents or whoever it is that brought us up, okay? What happens is as we grow older is that a lot of our dependence is on our parents, our guardians, our grandparents, whoever that brought us up. So we rely on them for our financial livelihoods. As we get older over time, we start to grow some level of independence. We want to get out there and do life on our own. We want to make some money. We want to show that we can stand on our own 2 feet. And what happens as we leave home and start to live life, have relationships, build new friendships, and start to work to make money is that we also start to have expenses, and gradually the dependence we had on our parents shifts to the dependence on easy access debt. That's so important because a lot of us have easy access to overdrafts, credit cards, and so on. And this dependence gradually shifts to relying on debt to finance our lives. Most people, believe it or not, remain at this stage in their financial journey, which we'll cover in a minute. And that stage is one where people make money, they pay expenses, they service debt. They make money, they pay expenses, they service debt. Most adults, even today, are at this stage in their financial journeys. And what's so critical about this is that most people, if they don't do anything about it, will remain at that stage until a stage where the state says to them, hey, you've passed 65 or 67, you've now got to retire. And guess what those people have to rely on? The state. So the dependence now shifts from just debt to relying on the state. Okay? So what you have there is a life of dependence from childhood through adulthood through to a stage of retirement where these people haven't quite grown up in their own financial lives. Okay? And that's because a lot of people in these stages that I'm referring to, this particular stage, have not spent time through their lives understanding where they are financially. And as such, because they have no idea where they are financially, they have absolutely no way of building a strategy for getting them to where they want to get to. So with that backdrop, let's now dive in and explore the money journey and what that actually means practically in order for you to identify where exactly you are on that journey and start to think about potentially what steps you might need to take to get to the next stage of that journey. So here are the 8 stages to financial independence and abundance. Stage 1 is a stage of financial dependence. So this is where I mentioned earlier, we rely on our parents and the people who've brought us up growing up. And a lot of our financial reliance is placed on those people. Stage 2 is a stage of financial solvency, which is where we've now left home and finding our way. And what we're doing at this stage is essentially making income to pay expenses and to service debt. This stage of financial solvency, the second stage, is where most people remain for their adult lives, because most people don't realize that there is a lot more out there potentially that they could achieve. And also mostly because most people tend to live way beyond their own lifestyles and essentially remain in this stage where debt is what's financing their lifestyles. That's what this stage of financial solvency is about. And most people at this stage have negative net worths. Okay, remember I told you at the beginning to work out what your financial net worth number is. If that number is negative, then the chances are you are currently at that stage of financial solvency where potentially you are living from paycheck to paycheck, waiting for the next thing to come in so you can service your expenses and pay down your debt. But I've got good news for you. There's a lot more hope because I've been at this stage myself, right? And today we're financially independent, having done it in 10 years, okay? So there is a way out, but you have to really trust this process and really believe that you can find a way out of this current position. Stage 3 is a stage of financial stability. So this is where you've moved out of that paycheck to paycheck life and you found a way to save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Most people refer to this as the emergency fund, okay? Which makes sense because what you're able to do at that stage is you have some breathing room. If some emergency happened, life would not come to an end, which is so critical, and it shows a great level of maturity because you've moved away from where most adults are in their financial lives, where they are just constantly revolving but not moving forward. So this is a really critical stage on that journey towards financial independence because it proves that you've understood the principles around living below your means. Stage 4 is a stage of financial debt freedom. So this is where you've now gotten some breathing room and you are now moving on and coming up with a strategy for getting rid of your debt, focusing on perhaps the most expensive debt, which might be your credit card debts, for example, and gradually snowballing down to the much cheaper debt, perhaps such as your mortgage, for example. So you don't need to be mortgage free at this stage at all, but you certainly need to be free of debt, of expensive debt, such as credit cards and short-term loans that are costing you and robbing you of your life's joy. So this is what needs to happen at this stage where you essentially, the strategy here is to focus on becoming debt-free. Stage 5, and this gets so exciting, is a stage of financial security. So this is where you've managed to build up and save up between 1 year and up to 5 years worth of expenses. This stage is so exciting because you've now moved on way beyond most people in society, and you've become that person who's given themselves a great deal of security. Why does that matter? Well, it means that if you get made redundant, if you lose your job, if something happened, life will keep carrying on because you've built in the cushion to sustain you and your family potentially. Okay, this is so critical because it even means that you've gotten to a stage in your life where you can take some time out. If you wanted to go on a sabbatical for 6 months, you can do that because you've got between 1 year and 5 years worth of your expenses saved. Now, this is so critical because it represents a really large chunk of your financial independence number, which is worked out as 25 times your annual expenses thereabout, or the stage where the income from your assets exceeds your essential expenses. Okay, and we're going to get to that stage in a minute. But this represents a really big stage because it somewhat represents between 5% and 25% of your financial independence pot. So this stage of financial security is so critical because you start to smell some of that freedom. You start to believe that you can actually get there because the strategy you would have been employing, remember I said, between each stage is a different approach. Okay, you have to really think about what's working for you and what strategy you need to employ in order to move yourself along those stages. But it does get easier as you move from one step to another. So this stage of financial security really makes you believe that I'm getting there, I'm actually doing it, and what I'm doing is actually working in helping me get towards that dream life of financial independence. Stage 6 is the stage of financial independence. This is the stage where we're at the moment in our financial lives, where we have the absolute freedom to choose what we do with our time and to do with our lives, okay? We're not wedded to a particular job. We are living a life where we are mortgage free. I'm going to share a video, put a link up there on a video we did about how we paid off our mortgage in 7 years for you to check out. Our income from our assets is able to easily pay off our monthly expenses as we live through life. And this is a really exciting stage of life because it gives you the freedom, and I'll talk about a lot more of this in a much later video. It gives you the freedom to do so much more. So this isn't just about, oh, I've now got control of my time, which is a big part of it, but it really plays a role in making you have this life where you essentially become a catalyst for so much more. And I'm going to talk a great deal about that later on, but not in this video. Now, if this stage of financial independence is something you would love to achieve, we've been there ourselves. And I can tell you, as I mentioned earlier, you cannot get to the stage of financial independence without having been through all the other stages before. And we've been there on this journey, okay? I can tell you it's something that's highly achievable, but you need an approach, okay? I'm going to share in the link above a resource we've created, a course. You don't have to check this out, but if you really are interested in this subject, please feel free to check it out. It's a course called Fire Superpower, a course we created to help people create a personalized plan for financial independence. We created this because what we found out was that a ton of people loved the idea. They got really excited, really buzzed up, but then most people had no idea what to do. Where do you start? What strategy do you use? Where am I on the journey? What do I need to do next? So many questions. And people will contact me and go, Ken, become my mentor, become my coach, become my helper. But the thing is, I'm being really honest, I only have so much time. So it becomes really challenging being able to attend to so many people at the same time. So what we did instead, we spent 8 months last year creating this course, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, filming them, doing so much to make this the best possible course on financial independence that anyone could ever come across. And we've had insane reviews. I'm gonna put one up on the screen for you to check out, on one that I received from a lady only two or 3 days ago, from a lady called Fiona, where she reads and tells us that, hang on, let me bring it up on my phone, right? where she reads and tells us that the investment in the course was the best I have ever made in the last 10 years. I've invested in seminars, courses in the last 10 years that promised me the world, but never quite delivered like yours can. And I must add, I invested thousands of pounds. This is a legit feedback from a lady called Fiona, who wrote me an email on the 31st of October. I'm just putting this up just to kind of show you that the love is real for this resource. So feel free to check it out. You know, there's no compulsion whatsoever, but if this is an important subject to you and you really want to make this real in your life, then this might just be the thing that you require, okay? Stage 7 is a stage of financial freedom. So this is a stage where the income from your assets is able to exceed your lifestyle expenses. So remember, with financial independence, the income from your assets exceeds your essential living expenses, okay? But with financial freedom, your money exceeds your lifestyle expenses. So you might say, for example, I want a home in Mallorca. I want to be able to live in London and travel to Mallorca at the weekends, or travel to Barcelona, or wherever it is you want to live at the weekends, for example. I want that lifestyle. If you can get to that stage where the income from your assets exceeds your expenses, those lifestyle expenses, then you are financially free. But most people use financial independence and financial freedom to be the same thing, because for us, for example, we're living exactly the lifestyle we want, because we travel 4-5 times a year in many cases, with a great deal of intention put into planning and making sure that our travel costs are super cheap, for example. And we live healthily and we eat good food and we have good friendships. So we've got the lifestyle we want, okay? So we're essentially financially free because we are also able to cover the expenses for the lifestyle that we desire. Stage 8 is the stage of financial abundance. This essentially means that you make so much money that you will never really end up spending all that money. Okay, this is a really, really rare stage. This is a stage where people talk about things such as philanthropy, and they might be giving a ton of money away because they've got so much money, they're stupidly rich, okay? This is really, you might think, oh, this is the stage I want to get to, and that's great, but if I'm honest with you, we, at the stage of financial independence and freedom, are able to actually do those things. We support causes. I don't talk about these on my blog at thehumblepenny.com a great deal, but once in a while I mention them. We're supporting causes that we would never have been able to support had we not got our finances in order. So remember, I mentioned to you before that this financial independence journey makes you into a bit of a catalyst and an enabler. This is what I was talking about, in that you're able to you have so much more capacity to give. The fact that I'm sitting here on a Sunday afternoon making a video to you guys is a really good example of that, because we are at the stage of our lives where giving has become a critical part of what forms our identity. And a lot of that is driven by the fact that we've got to the stage of financial independence. So guys, I really hope you've enjoyed watching that today on the stages that it takes to get to financial independence and abundance. I honestly can tell you that the journey to financial independence is single-handedly one of the most important journeys and goals you could ever pursue. So my question to you is, please tell me in the comments, where exactly are you on that spectrum, that money journey that I've mentioned? Tell me what stage you're on. Just say to me, Ken, I'm at stage whatever, stage 7, stage 5, stage 2, whatever it is. Let me know in the comments, because it's so important to acknowledge that this is the stage of the journey where you are at. Because from there, you can then start to formulate a plan of action and a strategy to get you to the next stage. I'm going to remind you at this stage that I have been on all those stages myself, as somebody who immigrated to the UK 20 years ago with absolutely nothing. So if I can make that happen, honestly, so can you. Don't be one of those people out there who complain and say that, oh, I can't do it because I'm on a low income, or oh, I can't do it because I'm too old. No, you're not. No, you're not. You can absolutely achieve the goals if you decide to take the right steps. And that's so critical. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. I look forward to seeing you in the comments, and seeing you on our next video. Take care and bye for now. Wow, got passionate there.